Hey Puzzle Buddies, it's Bree, and today is our very first real-life speed puzzling competition. I haven't really come across anyone so far who posts their experience with the American online competitions, so I want to show you guys exactly how it went from beginning to end. I signed up for this competition through speedpuzzling.com, and this one's being held over Zoom. So basically how it went is that this one was generally supposed to start at 12, so right about 12, the Zoom opened, they let us all in. And then for the first few minutes, the organizer, Jonathan, was mostly looking through all of our cameras and making sure, one, that they were on, and two, that you could see the full puzzling area for everybody. Basically, you needed to be propped up high enough that they could see the whole puzzling area and make sure that there was nobody else helping you, which is why we're at such an odd angle today, because I had to move my puzzle table so that way I could prop up my laptop, but it is what it is. So after the initial checks, we went through a Kahoot, which was basically mostly a slideshow, making sure that we knew all the rules. And then towards the end, they had a little trivia section. One of the questions was asking how many times we've competed prior to today. And so the options were 0, 1 through 9, 9 through 20, and then 20 plus times. And there were only about 7 of us who said that we had done 0 competitions before today, out of, I think there were 48 people in this Kahoot. So that was just a little bit worrisome. And then the next trivia question was one about Winnie the Pooh, which I thought was kind of random and odd. However, I just thought that, okay, we'd have a couple of random whatever trivia questions. But no, Jonathan revealed that the trivia question always relates to the puzzle. So now I got really excited. Y'all probably know by now that Winnie the Pooh is one of my absolute all-time comfort favorite things ever. So once I learned that the puzzle was Winnie the Pooh, I calmed down a little bit and was like, okay, I can probably do this. We all opened our packages right at the same time, and so we could finally see what the actual image was, and my excitement went down just a wee bit because it was a very original sort of Winnie the Pooh style compared to anything more modern, so I was slightly less excited, but I didn't have time for that. I just had about a minute or two while the man was finishing talking to really look at the picture, try to pick out the pieces of it, and get ready to start. And then 3, 2, 1, go, we all started at the same time. I was super nervous because I wanted to make sure that I was listening and not start early because I did not want to get myself disqualified. But I started on time with everybody else, got the pieces out of the package, and did my full flip. I got all the pieces flipped in just around 3 minutes, which isn't super fast, but I think for me that's pretty solid. Now, a few months ago, I attempted to speed run a 500-piece Springbok, and that final time was well over 2.5 hours. And in that video, I said something along the lines of, well, in a competition, I more than likely will never have to speed puzzle a random cut quite like this. And yet here we are. But alas, I'm trying my best. I pulled out the yellow pieces first because they were the brightest, they stuck out the most to me, and I got put together for the most part, and the head of, I'm assuming that's supposed to be Christopher Robin. I tried to gather up the Tigger pieces, but I was getting really, really stuck. So then I ended up pulling out some of the red pieces that I knew had to belong to either the shorts or the collar of Christopher Robin. I also kept coming back to the corner where there was some words, and that was a little bit tricky because it's not in English, and also words are always kind of tricky in a puzzle. So it was taking my brain a minute to figure out what was supposed to go where. After struggling a bit with Tigger, I moved on to Eeyore's pieces, and as I'm getting Eeyore together, this is where I start really running into a problem that kind of messed me up for the whole rest of the time. And that is that I could not figure out how the characters connected to each other. And what I mean is that I knew that the characters were all holding hands in a circle, and I know that this puzzle eventually has to make a square or a rectangle or something, but I could not figure out what way to orient the pieces, the chunks of pieces that I had, the groups of pieces that I had put together, to make it into one cohesive circular square type thing. I finally figured out how to get my sections connected into something that was almost a rectangle. But now the problem is that all the pieces left are either green, blue, or some form of grayish, beigeish brown. And at this point, I have no clue how many people have finished or what anybody else was doing, because unlike in other competitions that I've watched online where there's commentators talking throughout the whole, little competition, Jonathan was completely silent this whole time, and everyone else is really supposed to be too. So you don't come off mute when people finish. You just really are supposed to like hold up your timer to the camera, so that way the judges can kind of see that you finished and record your time. So at this point, I have no clue how many people have finished or how like poorly I've done. So here's where I was at the 1 hour mark, which is technically where the competition ended. Clearly, I wasn't finished, but like, honestly, I'm not like too mad with where I was at this point. You'll see from this point on that I keep looking up. That's me looking at my laptop to see if I'm still supposed to keep going. I had the Zoom where I could only see Jonathan, who was like the main guys, big box taking up most of it, and then just like 5 or 6 of the competitors at the top, you know what I mean? So I couldn't see what anybody else was doing, but I could see that at least like 3 of the 5 or 6 people up in the top with me were still going. So I was like, okay, I guess I'll keep going too. So I just kept trekking along, and it was around like the 1 hour and 10 minute mark that Jonathan finally spoke up, and he said that he had to end the Zoom, either because he had to go facilitate another one or whatever. But he made a comment saying that he usually doesn't have to cut off the Zoom for so many people, which made me feel a little bit better to know that there were like multiple people, in fact more than he probably would have anticipated, still working on the puzzle. So I went back to puzzling, and I was like getting a little bit tired, and honestly I really had to use the bathroom. But I was like, I have to finish this before I get up and do anything else. And then I finally get my last piece in at 1 hour, 15 minutes, and 58 seconds. I was worried that me being so nervous to be actually competing would slow me down a whole lot. However, the last 300 piece puzzle that I sped run was also around 1 hour and 15 minutes. So I was pretty consistent, and that I'm okay with. Here I am looking over everything that came in the box, because when I initially took the pieces out, I was not looking at what was all in this box. But it came in some typical plastic, and then it also came with a resealable bag for the pieces, so that was nice. The box that everything came in was actually like pretty sturdy, so impressed with that. And then what I think is my favorite part of this thing is that it came with a card that had like speedpuzzling.com's information and like how you can sign up for things. But then also it comes with like this little sheet where you can write down the information for the puzzle and then add your name to it and like your time and all that sort of stuff. And that way you can pass it on to other people, so that way they can do it too. And I think this is really cool, especially if you end up donating a lot of your puzzles. This way you can kind of spread the word about speed puzzling, let other people get involved, let other people like discover this whole side of things. I think that they typically use like traditional puzzle brands for these competitions. However, as far as I can tell, I think this one is like an in-house personalized speedpuzzling.com puzzle. Like, I don't know who the actual manufacturer is. In fact, the artist of this puzzle, she was actually in the Zoom with us. As far as the competition is concerned, basically what I did was after I finished, I took a picture of my timer and the completed puzzle, and I just emailed it to Jonathan. And he and whomever else puts it all together into this giant Google spreadsheet. Ultimately, I don't know how many people were in the Zoom because I never actually looked. However, you could also compete offline and then submit your time before the competition started. So out of a total of 234 participants, I finished 212th. Which is not last, so I am proud of myself. Overall, I had fun. I think 300 pieces was a good place for me to start, and now that I've done it once, it's not so scary. Let me know down in the comments how you think I did, and let me know, will you ever try out a speed puzzling competition? Keep puzzling, and I'll see you in the next video.